And I too would like to give my condolences to the individuals who died in that helicopter crash, their families, and to our military family. One tragedy after another, but very sad. I'll give a brief update on Nova Scotia's cases before outlining some of the first steps in Nova Scotia's COVID-19 recovery plan. We do have, unfortunately, one additional death related to COVID-19 at Northwood, and my condolences and sympathies to that family as well. We announced these deaths, but we have to remember that not just numbers, there are people and their families behind them, and each of them are grieving, and my sympathies to them. We now have 12 new cases of COVID-19 today, bringing us to a total of 595. And we have, out of that total, we have 10 individuals who are in hospital, 3 of those in intensive care. We have 592 people who have recovered, and unfortunately we've had 29 deaths. On the good side, we've had 28,883 Nova Scotians who have been tested, and their tests have been negative. And again, an indication of the success of our testing strategy, reaching out broadly to test lots of people. We have 10 licensed long-term care homes and unlicensed seniors facilities that have had at least one case of COVID-19, and involving a total of 237 residents and 105 staff. Referencing our testing capacity, the QE2 lab continues to work effectively, and yesterday they did 812 tests. And again, we have lots of testing capacity. It's critically important to remind every chance I get that any Nova Scotians who have symptoms that could be COVID-19, and those symptoms are if you have 2 or more of fever, new or worsening cough, headache, sore throat, runny nose. If you have 2 or more of those symptoms, if you can do the online 811 assessment tool, do that. If you can't, phone 811 telehealth line, and you'll get further direction from there. It's important that we continue to look for and identify new COVID-19 cases, and then rapidly apply public health measures around those cases. As the Premier mentioned, we're now in a position where we can actually start to lift a few of the restrictions that have been in place. These are the first steps in our recovery plan. It's critical that we take a measured approach. We don't want to rush into this and undo the progress and the results of the hard work by all Nova Scotians that we are able to have in the last few weeks. I know that these restrictions have created a lot of challenges for families, for individuals, for businesses. I know many people are tired of staying home, and that we all just want to see some light at the end of the tunnel. That's especially true that the weather is nicer, and there's it's hard not to be outside. And we want to actually encourage people to be outside. Being active outdoors, as the Premier said, is important for both our physical and our mental health. And this is especially important as we're dealing with the stresses of COVID-19, the mass shooting, and now the crash of the Canadian Forces helicopter. So we want people to get outside, and for those reasons, but it's really important that we all do this safely, and then do this in a way that continues to follow public health directives. So I'm going to go through some of the details of what's going to open up as of 3 p.m. Today. So first, we have provincial and municipal parks can reopen. This includes sports fields as well as school grounds in the Halifax area that were closed as a result of our previous order. Any trails that were closed can now reopen. We ask that as much as possible that you do not drive to parks and trails, but you enjoy what is available in your local community. That goes for ATV users as well. As many trails, in addition, many trails also only allow single file, so it's important that we those single file trails if you come across other people, that you're stepping off the trail, respecting social distance. If people do need to drive within their community to get to a park or trail, it's important to not create crowded parking lots or roadsides. If there's already a significant number of cars there, please don't stop. Go somewhere else. we're opening these up, but we need to be safe. We need to use good common sense about how much we congregate together. That for COVID-19 to spread, it needs to be, people need to come together. So while we open up the outdoors, we need to still stay separated to the extent possible that prevents the spread of COVID-19. Community gardens can also open. These gardens are important for many reasons, including how they help address food security, which is a critical issue in many of our communities. All provincial and private campgrounds, however, remain closed, except to perform necessary maintenance to prepare to open. However, private campgrounds can open for seasonal campers in fixed RV campsites. No weekend or short-term campers are permitted at this time. Nova Scotians can go to their cottages, but we're asking them to do that with their own family or household unit, people that they already are living together with. And we're also asking to not go back and forth frequently, but choose as much as possible a primary residence. Minimize the movement back and forth between your home and your cottage. If you happen to have a private boat launch, we're asking that you can certainly go boating, but only go with members, people who are within your household. Now isn't the time to start to invite friends and neighbors to join you for whether it's boating or for picnics, or we still need to be socializing within our household unit. Sport fishing can now reopen, whether it's from the shore or from a boat. People, however, need to continue to practice social distancing on the shore and at the boat launch. And if they're boating, it must be with people that are within their household again, people that they're already living with. People are also encouraged to do this within their local area and limit their driving for fishing. There will be no derbies or fishing festivals allowed at this time, and people from other provinces towing fishing boats are not going to be allowed to come into Nova Scotia for sport fishing at this time. Sailing and boating clubs can now open to allow people to prepare their boats for the season, and food services within marinas will be limited to takeout like other restaurants. Golf courses can open their driving ranges and begin maintenance work to prepare to open fully in the weeks to come. The workers, like other businesses, must maintain social distancing, and those using the driving ranges must also maintain that social distance of 6 feet. Again, clubhouses that serve food and beverages will be restricted to takeout only. Drive-in religious services will now be allowed as long as people stay in their cars, the cars are parked 6 feet apart, and there are no exchanges of people or materials between cars. So that means no passing of things like collection plates or communion. Again, we're asking only that in any single car, that it's only members from within a one household that are in that car going to a drive-in religious service. We know that many people want to get started on gardening and spring home maintenance. Garden centers will be opening and are allowed to open, but people must use them safely, respecting physical distance and numbers as they do in grocery stores. While I'm on the topic of shopping, I do want to remind people that there should only be limited necessary shopping. We ask people to do that safely. Plan ahead so you shop no more than once a week and have only one person per household go into the store. Certainly, my observation over the last couple of weekends has been that for many people, this seems to have been forgotten. So we need to respect the rules and also use our common sense so we're shopping safely, protecting those who are willing to continue to come to work to allow us to do the shopping that's necessary. For now, all beaches and playgrounds will remain closed, though we hope to be able to reopen them soon. Most of us don't have a beach in our community and would have to drive a fair distance to get to one. And we really don't want people driving long distances if they don't need to. Playgrounds have many challenges to maintaining social distance for kids, plus have many high-touch surfaces that cannot be sanitized. So for those reasons, for now, we're keeping beaches and playgrounds closed. These are the initial steps in our recovery plan. I do want to stress that the existing public health directives around maintaining social distance, social gatherings should only be when essential and no more than 5 people. And as much as possible, we want people to enjoy the outdoor activities, but do that within your household groups. Those are going to be important, and even as we continue to open things up further, those core public health directives are going to remain and need to remain in place. Our ability to go further, to open up further in outdoor activities and open up other areas will really depend on how these first steps go. Are they done safely? And are Nova Scotians, will they continue to follow the public health advice and directives? So this is our first step. Our ability to go further will depend on all of us working together to make sure this goes well and is done safely. I also want to remind people that good hygiene practices continue to be a key part of protecting ourselves, minimizing the spread of this virus. Washing your hands well and often, sneezing into or coughing into a tissue and then throwing that away and washing your hands or into your elbow, avoiding touching your eyes and mouth anywhere in your face, especially if your hands are unwashed. Those are all very important of how we protect ourselves. People can also consider using non-medical masks, especially when they're out in public and where it's difficult to maintain social distance. We all need to do these things. We all need to practice good common sense and looking out for one another. I know that for some people that it may be fully hard to understand all why we're doing certain things and why other things are not being opened up, and that there's a lot of questions that people may have on whether something is a law, whether it's required, or whether it's part of the advice that comes from myself and the Premier. Ultimately, we're asking people to do their best, whether it's legally required or whether it's a strong encouragement and advice. Please do your best. Follow and use common sense. This is all about keeping staying in our household groups for now, while you still get outdoors. Keeping household groups at least 6 feet apart from each other, minimizing the chance from the virus to spread from one group to another. Or as I said, it's our ability to open things up further will depend on how we do with these initial adjustments and how well Nova Scotians comply with those. It will also be based on our Nova Scotia epidemiology and other local data. We're going to be looking very closely over the next 2 to 3 weeks to see what is the impact on COVID-19 transmission from starting to ease some of these public health restrictions and allowing people to get outdoors in a more robust way. It's really important that we do this slowly and carefully. The last thing we want to do is undo the progress, undermine all the hard work and the sacrifice that people have made to date. I know that may sound hard, but it's going to take some time to get ourselves out of this. And the last thing we want to do is set ourselves back, because ultimately that will prolong and mean that we have to stick with stricter public health restrictions for a longer period of time. The Premier and I are absolutely consistent in our thinking together that it's better to be doing this carefully and cautiously and being slow on this, because ultimately being slow will get us to our end goal faster. And now is not the time for us to kind of let our guards down. We need to continue to do the work that we have been doing to flatten the curve. So I want to end by thanking everybody for their patience, for their adherence to the strong public health measures that have been necessary and are continue to be necessary to protect not only ourselves, but to protect our loved ones, protect our neighbors, essential workers such as healthcare workers, grocery store workers, our first responders, and also those who are most vulnerable in our communities who may not have the ability to protect themselves or be at greater risk for severe disease. It's for all those people we're doing it for, not just for ourselves. By acting together, having a strong positive sense of community and knowing that by doing these things we're actually caring for each other, we will get through this, and we will then start to be slowly further continue to ease restrictions as the weeks come.